All right, just got out of seeing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and let me say, this movie has all the feels. It's extremely emotional, and a lot of the emotional scenes are very riveting, and even got me a little teary-eyed as well. People to the left and right of me, behind me, everyone in the theater was choking up, but it was great to see that Marvel didn't have any of the juvenile comedy that can be expected in some of the films. There were some genuine jokes here, and I think most of them landed. I was definitely cracking up. I had a great time, had a smile on my face throughout the film, despite some of the emotional times. But I will say the CGI was impressive. Quantumania was a film for me that I was totally taken out of because of the CGI. This movie was a huge step up, and the practical effects, some of the prosthetics on some of these characters was awesome. It was like Star Wars on steroids with some of them. So it was an awesome space adventure, and I really enjoyed Will Poulter's performance as a Warlock, and I also was a fan of the High Evolutionary. Go see this film, bring your friends. Awesome film, definitely recommend it. All right, just got out of seeing Hypnotic, and let me say, I hope someone got in contact with Christopher Nolan and asked, hey, are we allowed to make this movie? Because without going into any spoilers, it seems like they were trying to recreate one of his better films and take the style and elements from it. Now, that still doesn't save this film. It's very generic, and it seems like the pitch meeting went a little something like this. We need a Netflix-style movie, we gotta have Ben Affleck, and we need a great supporting actress. Now, granted, that great supporting actress is Alice Braga, and I felt she did a decent job. She brought some gravitas to the role, but the first hour of this film is so slow and lethargic, and there's even some dialogue where I'm like, Ben, are you even trying, man? Now, granted, that might play into the overall theme of the story, but if you are going to watch this movie, make sure to skip out on the plot synopsis and make sure to not watch the trailers. Perhaps you might enjoy it more that way, but you don't need to run out to theaters. Check it out when it hits streaming. All right, just got out of seeing Fool's Paradise, and let me say, what an absolute waste of time and what a letdown of a movie. I went into this film with high expectations. I took a look at the star-studded cast and thought, okay, there's going to be some great cameos and some solid performances. But man, was I wrong. And clearly that $28 million budget was allocated to those A-list celebrities. You had Kate Beckinsale, Jason Sudeikis, Jason Bateman, and Ken Jeong. And Ken Jeong gives it his all, but it's just not enough to even be close to saving this movie. And R.I.P. to Ray Liotta, he's in this film for a little bit too. This is a stain on his career, and I hate to say it, a terrible way for him to go out in his last acting role. Charlie Day, you were great in Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I see what you were trying to do in this satire comedy, but directing and writing perhaps just isn't for you. If this hits streaming as well, do not waste your time. It was a really, really bad movie. All right, just got out of seeing Fast X, and let me say, this might be the worst movie in the franchise and was way too silly. There was one thing I liked about this movie, but let's talk about what I didn't like. The casting of Jason Momoa did not pay off. No matter how much the movie tried to say he was the devil or a villain, you couldn't take him seriously. Every line of dialogue was extremely corny, and it's almost like they shot his scenes as a one take and moved on to the next. Now, I feel terrible for Tyrese Gibson, who portrays Roman. The dude is a walking joke, and none of the jokes land. Maybe one of them, but honestly, none of them. Now, for the one thing I did like about this film, I enjoyed John Cena's performance. Every time he stepped onto screen, I felt a little invested, and the dialogue was on point. But that was only in 5-minute spurts, and then it was back to this boring film. If you're a big fan of the franchise, this is not the one. All right, just got out of seeing The Machine, and let me say, this is not a comedy. This is a badass action adventure and easily the best film I've seen this summer. I didn't expect this movie to be so bloody. I didn't expect to see some superb cinematography, and I didn't expect Jimmy Tatro to shine in this role. Now, for the action sequences and the fight choreography, they're groundbreaking. It's like The Matrix. It's groundbreaking. And even Brett Kirshner has some of his own action scenes, and he's shining in them. He did a great job. Now, for the supporting cast, Eva Bobic was phenomenal. Her clever and witty dialogue was delivered so well, and she even had some dope action scenes. And the casting of Mark Hamill was perfect for this film. There's so many heartfelt moments, and he really pioneers them and brings together those ideas of family. Again, my favorite summer movie, and if you haven't checked it out, make sure to run to theaters or wait till it hits streaming. You're going to want to watch this one. All right, just got out of seeing Kandahar, and let me say, I really try to get invested in this film, but the first 30 minutes is a complete amateur hour. There's some bad CGI, some terrible acting, and some of the camera shots are just not good. And this movie tries to build up this John Wick hype for Gerard Butler's character as if he's invincible, but there's not nearly enough action to even prove that. And I did like the desert sequence at night with the night vision, but it only scratches the surface of what it was intended to be. And it was pitch black. I don't know if the director intended that, but I literally could not see anything. Now, for things I did like, I enjoyed the score. I thought it was unique, nothing spectacular, but it did fit the film. And I like the fact that Gerard Butler produced this movie. Now, do you need to run out to theaters and see this? Maybe not. But if it hits streaming, check it out and let me know what you think. All right, just got out of seeing The Little Mermaid, and let me say, thankfully, the second half of this movie picks up. The first half is dragging a bit, and for a live-action adaptation, I expected a little more innovation, but it's exactly like the original story. Now, for the singing and the musical notes, Halle Berry is absolutely crushing it. You cannot tell that she's lip-singing. She's got the vibrato going on. She's hitting the high notes, so kudos to her. She did a great job. Now, for Jonah Hauer-King, he's got to give some thanks to the auto-tune. It saved him a little bit, but he did the best that he could. Now, for Melissa McCarthy, who portrays Ursula, I think the look and the aesthetic was definitely on point, but as far as her delivery of the dialogue, it felt like she kept bouncing between being herself and then trying to be Ursula. Now, for the CGI, I saw a lot of people online talking trash, but honestly, it's not that bad. There's maybe one or two scenes where I could notice it, but the average viewer will not.